there, Cavalier sports fans. I'm Cantero, and welcome to this edition of the Cavalier Sports Report. Joining me today is JCCC academic and athletic counselor for the Cavalier baseball team, Dave Ellis. Hey there, Mr. Ellis. How are you today?
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me here today.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Yeah.
Now, what services does the JCCC counseling department offer student athletes?
Well, basically, the way it works out in the counseling center is that the counselors actually volunteer to be a counselor. We're not hired to be athletic counselors, but we volunteer. And so basically, we have counselors that are assigned to each one of the sports teams. And so the services we offer basically is to help the student during their entire time they're here with their class schedule, making sure that they're reaching the classes they need to be able to hopefully graduate and transfer on. But that's our main role.
Well, that's terrific. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Now, in what ways does counseling help out a student athlete?
Well, basically, when they first come in and start working with us, the first time we see them, we're basically trying to put together their classes. That's our main goal. And then throughout the semester, a lot of the athletes will come in and maybe visit with us if they're having trouble with a class.
Yeah.
Or they may have a question about dropping a class or having trouble with a teacher or whatever that might be. So we're really trying to help them do all those particular things. And then we start helping them again with the enrollment for the next semester. And so they have the opportunity to come in early before all the other students do to enroll. So in fact, this last semester I had 20 appointments that I had to get all the athletes in before the first day of registration. So that's what we do.
Early enrollment. I should be an athlete just for that.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people appreciate the fact that they have that opportunity to do that. But we have to do that because of their schedule sometimes, and it works out pretty well. But yeah, and then, a lot of times they'll come in too for personal problems, or they have some things they want to talk about, or maybe where they're planning on transferring to.
All right, sounds great. Now, how long have you been at JCCC offering your counseling services?
Well, I've been working with, I think I'm the longest one in the counseling center. I've been working with the baseball team for 20 years.
Oh, that's great.
I've been working with the team, and I, for the first probably 10 or 12 years, I did it by myself, and then I left and went on a sabbatical for 6 months through the college. And one of the counselors asked if she could volunteer to be the advisor, and I said yes, that would be great. And then when I came back, she asked if she and I could share those duties, so I did that. And then just recently, Alicia Bradyhoff, who was the counselor at that time, has taken over as the supervisor of our counseling center, and now there's another guy, Chad Yonker, who stepped in for her.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, there's two of us.
Now, there's plenty of sports here at JCCC.
Yes.
Besides you, does every sport have their own counselor?
They do. Yeah, every sport has their own counselor, and sometimes depending on how big the team is, like my team is one of the bigger teams, and the track team, then they have maybe two counselors for that. But most of the teams just have one counselor. And again, like I said earlier, it is all volunteer on our part, and we don't really know necessarily about the NCAA rules and regulations, but we do know that we try to keep our athletes at least 15 hours a week for most of us.
Wow,
15 hours this semester, I'm sorry. And we know that, and then if there's any questions about some sort of eligibility rules, then we have them talk to the coach or to the head of the athletic department.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, how often do you try to meet with the players throughout the semester? At least once or multiple times?
Yeah, I would say on an average probably once or twice a semester that I work with them. And personally I try to go down and sometimes I'll go down and watch the practices down at the field, or if I have the opportunity, and sometimes I'll get baseball players talking to me down there. But most of the time it's just once or twice. It's again, but like if they have to drop a class, they have to get permission from myself and from the coach to be able to drop. So if they come in to do that, then I'll work with them. But probably the most of the time I see the baseball athletes, the most is probably their second year during that spring semester when they're thinking about going to school somewhere and just want to make sure everything's ready to go.
All right, now you mentioned that there's some sort of like eligibility for NJCAA and all that.
Yes.
What different rules do student athletes have compared to normal students, as in for GPA they must have, or class they have to enroll in, or things like that?
Yeah, well, I think that, and I'm not sure if I know exactly the same rules, but I know that they have to be at least in 12 hours of classes, and then they have to have certain GPA, and I don't want to quote that GPA right now, but I know that we try to keep all the athletes at least above a 2.0. And I've been really proud too of the baseball team too. During the last 4 or 5 years, we've been having one of the top GPAs of all the sports, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we get them in some good classes, and the coaches are doing a pretty good job of following up and making sure if something happens. But yeah, we both, the counseling center and the coaches, try to, if we see a student that's struggling a little bit, either the coaches or myself will start talking to them, giving them some ideas on how to be successful. So. But I think the coaches play a big part in that and making sure that they do well in school.
Yeah, well, sounds
That's
good.
important, yeah.
Now let's talk some baseball. How good of a season do you think the team will have this year?
I think we're going to have a great season. If you really think about what happened last year, they went to the national tournament and they bring pretty much most of their infield and outfield players back. And they had to pick up some pitchers, and I heard they picked up some really good pitchers. And I've been working with them, and some pitchers have coming in. So. Talking to Coach Shelley a couple weeks ago, he said this is a great team, one of his better teams that he's had. He said they just have to get ready they have to gel a little bit more. And I think that takes place a little bit this semester, but more probably at the beginning of the spring is when they'll start seeing that, especially when they're running laps and stuff and almost dying out there. I think they start gelling a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to go all the way and win the World Series.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I think we'll have a great team. And like I said, I've been working with Coach Shelley for 20 years, and we've had a lot of ups and downs through our time working together, but he's always positive, and he has always got some great things planned for the future. And I've been working with him long enough that I kind of know when he needs, sometimes he'll just come and want to talk sometimes too. And that's another thing that I do as a counselor. Sometimes I'll visit with the baseball coaches and Coach Canary, Coach Horner, and we've got a really good relationship with them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Now, for future Cavaliers who are looking to come here to JCCC, what is #1 piece of advice that you would give them to ensure that they will have a good time here as student athletes?
Yeah. Well, this is just my theory, and I've seen it happen in the past, is that if you come in and you're a really solid student, I mean, you don't have to be an A student or a 4.0 student, but a solid, student above a 3.0, it seems to reflect out in the field too. And I think if you have an athlete that's coming here, they need to do well in school. But if you're just getting by or just kind of making it, thinking you're going to just play baseball for the rest of your life, you might have a struggle here. And so you need to come here and be really a pretty good athlete and also a good student. I think it goes hand in hand. And I'm not saying that some students can't make it here without being good academically, but the majority of students I've seen that have been good here have also been really good in academics also.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Counselor Ellis.
Okay, thank you, and appreciate being here.
And that's all for this edition of the Cavalier Sports Report. I'm Cantero. We'll see you next time, sports fans.